Ghosts, spirits, poltergeists, demons. Do they exist? Is there life after life? Are there unseen entities around us? Can they communicate? Do you believe? What happens in the shadows doesn't always stay in the shadows. Live from Northwest Georgia, covering the region and beyond, this is Georgia Paranormal Radio. And now, here is your host, Mike Watkins.
Good evening! Welcome to another edition of Georgia Paranormal Radio. This is your host, Mike Watkins. We're happy that you could join us tonight for episode number 11. And, wow, where's the time gone? If this is your first episode that you're listening to, hey, you missed 10 episodes. Where you been? So you need to backtrack, download those, or put them through your iPod, or however you're listening, and hey, catch up on the times, folks. Hopefully you'll notice also that with episode number 10 and number 11, we're encoding at a higher quality. We're broadcasting out now at 192K per second, KB, kilobits, kilobytes, whichever one applies. I never can remember which one, so 192 KB per second. It's a lot higher quality, and hopefully you can tell a difference. I believe with this episode you'll be able to tell a huge difference because the EVPs are going to come out at you at a higher quality. And this is, I guess I just let the cat out of the bag, this is our monthly EVP special. And with me tonight is my special in-studio guest here at the luxury townhouse condominium studio that we have here in scenic Lafayette, Georgia. You know, they're in the millionaire neighborhood. Yeah, right next to the pothole in the crack house. But anyway, with me tonight in studio, in office, in spare bedroom, is David Westbrooks, the operations manager for the group, and one of your favorite personalities. And David, welcome to the program again.
Thank you, Mike. I started to say I was glad to be here, but after you said what you did, I'm not sure if I am or not.
Yeah, you know, when the drug task force comes in, you never want to be around, so trust me. Actually, it's not that bad of a neighborhood. It's very quiet. It's very peaceful. There's a lot of old people around, and, you know, every third of the month I make a lot of extra money by stealing their Social Security checks. So, wait a minute. That's not even right. Oh, dear Lord. That's not a felony, by the way, anybody who's listening, so... Anyhow, I'm in a silly mood tonight, folks. I'm tanked up on a lot of coffee and Coke, and I just burnt my 6th cup of coffee for the day, and I don't guess I'll be sleeping forever. So, anyway, you're liable to hear me say anything stupid and ignorant, so I just keep listening. That's just the way I am. And like I was talking about the EVP quality, though, I've actually remastered all of these EVP samples, David, to play at a higher bit rate. Previously, it would kind of slow down, and the quality would go down whenever we played an EVP sample on this program. But I actually took the time to remaster them all to stream at 192K per second. So I think we're going to have a good program tonight.
Well, it sounds like they should be coming at a lot higher quality than what they have.
Yeah, the previous quality was 8K per second.
Well, that's a big jump. Big
yeah,
jump.
Huge. So, you know, I guess the only thing we've had going on over this last week was a good interview with Joey Ward from the West Georgia Paranormal Research Society, who will be coming online as a new sponsor here. I know I've been promising that, but hey, we are actually working on their ad right now. Well, not right now, I'm talking right now, but, you know, in this time frame, we are working on their ad, and I think it's going to be a good one. I think you folks will like it, and hey, we appreciate having them on board, you know. And hey, last week was Thanksgiving, and I know I got stuffed and ate far too much, worked a little too much, and didn't even have a fist fight with the family. And I hope you had a good holiday, David.
Well, I had a great holiday. I ate too much as usual. Looking forward to Christmas so I can eat more, and had plenty of leftovers so I can still keep eating. So As long as I got food handy, I'm happy.
Oh, it's awesome. That's the only thing I like about the holidays. Forget the commercialism. Just feed me.
Yeah, that's it.
So.
That's the whole. That's everything in a nutshell right there. As long as you got food and a place to sit down, take a nap after you get through eating, everything's fine with the world.
Absolutely. Just for a little bit of team news here before we get into the program, we those of you that ordered T-shirts, they are in, not T-shirts, team shirts, I should say. And you can tell I'm reading my notes without any contacts in tonight, folks. But the team shirts are in for those of you team members that ordered shirts. I've actually had them about a week. You'll have to forgive me for getting too busy to actually get them to you. I've been kind of tied up with work and well, just been lazy. And so I'll get them to you this week. I'll send out an email and we can meet somewhere and you can pick them up from me. And also, I want to remind you of something coming up on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's going to be the live chat. We're having that every week now in the chat room on our website. There's a link to it on this radio page website also. But if you want to go there directly, just go to www.nwgapit.com, click on chat room, and bada bing, you're there. But now we're chatting about this show. We're talking about the paranormal, or well, heck, we're just talking about anything that pops up. I know last week we had a very interesting conversation that went on for a couple of hours. I believe it was, wow, I about fell asleep. But it was interesting. It wasn't that it was boring. It was just I was tired, and it went on for so long. But I invite you to stop by there. And as a side note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Our listener count has jumped through the roof. And, yeah, David just made a good note about the chat room there. Please make sure that you have Java on your computer. Everybody has Java on their computer, whether you know it or not. Make sure it's the updated version of Java before you try to go in the chat room. I'd appreciate it, and you'll appreciate it when you're actually able to get in there. We had a lot of problems last week with some folks trying to get in there. I got phone calls and emails, and it was the Java. Their Java on their end just need to be updated. And you can go to www.java, that's java.com, and check and see if you need an updated version. Simple as that. But just update your Java before you try to come in. And we've had some folks in there, and like I was saying before I slipped off there on a tangent, our listener count has jumped way up. The episode from last week, which as I'm recording this, it's a couple of days before you're going to hear it, but already the listener count for last week is well over 100. The week before that, pushing 120, 130, somewhere around there. It's excellent. I appreciate all you good folks listening, and hey, if you like what we're doing, even though we get a little silly sometimes, even though we ramble on here, tell a friend. Hey, tell them to just give us a listen, and maybe we'll have a new fan base out of your friends too, and you can all talk about us the next day and just how silly I sound. So I don't mind you doing that, and I also don't mind your feedback. So if you have an idea for the show, or somebody who would make a good guest, or you want to be a sponsor, well, hey, contact me, Mike, Mike, at nwgapit.com. And I'll be happy to talk to you. You can also get any other senior staff member on the team by just typing in their little name, like David or Cindy or Robert or Henry, followed by the at nwgapit.com. You can do it that way too. And, hey, that's enough of that rambling on there. You never know. Somebody probably just went to sleep out there, David.
No, I'm sure we'll wake them up here in a minute.
Yeah. So what we're doing tonight, it's the end of the month. And the end of the month always means one thing. I'm getting ready to rob old... No, I'm not getting ready to rob old people. That's at the first of the month. It is the EVP Special. We do it every month here. You folks know it. You love it. You love listening to what we capture out there. So, David, tell us for those newbies, I hate to use the word newbie, paranormal novices, shall we say. Tell us about EVP. Tell us what an EVP is. Tell us how we capture EVP. Tell us why it's important, and just spill your guts. Tell us what you know.
Well, EVP is short for electronic voice phenomenon. Uh, the actual audio recording of voices has been around since Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Edison is credited with being the first person to actually try to invent a machine in order to pick up electronic voice phenomenon. And although it was never actually seen by the public, it was rumored by several of his close friends that they had seen it, that it had been built.
Mm-hmm.
But to this day, it still hasn't been found. During the 40s and the 50s, there was a little renewed interest in it. Some voices were captured on tape by a bird watcher, and he took the voices to be, one of them at least, from his departed mother.
Right.
And he got into it all hot and heavy, and actually wrote several books about it.
Jurgensen.
Jurgensen was his name.
Yeah.
And of course, Sarah Eastep.
Sarah Eastep.
She is, if Thomas Edison is the father of it, she's got to be the mother.
Mm-hmm.
In the 60s and 70s, she renewed the interest in electronic voice phenomenon, and actually coined the phrase electric voice phenomenon. That's where this word came from.
Right.
And it's caught on like wildfire since. She founded the group that she's over. The
American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomenon.
That's correct.
AAEVP.
And it is still going strong.
Yes.
Everybody is interested in EVPs, which brings us up to present times. I mean, you know, in order to capture an EVP, basically all you have to have is some type of recorder.
Yeah.
A lot of people will argue that the only thing that you can catch it on is a audio voice recorder, but that's far from the truth. We've actually captured audio off of video
Mm-hmm.
equipment. You can capture it off of radio,
Mm-hmm.
speakers from your computer. Has
Yeah.
been known to come through at time to time, has it not, Mike?
We're going to talk about that here a little bit later on, but I'll give you a sneak hint about what it was. Those of you that listened to episode 10, that was last week's episode. You folks heard 3 EVPs without knowing it.
Actually, they heard a lot more EVPs than that, but that's just what we've gone back and culled out.
Yeah. I heard some of it while I was editing the show. There really wasn't a lot of editing done because that was actually, I guess, whenever I was interviewing a stranger, I actually behaved myself. And, I was actually nice and normal, and I wasn't a goofball. And
Not a lot of editing then, huh?
there really wasn't. I edited that show in somewhere around 6 minutes.
Yeah, it was a nice, even-based show.
Good flow.
Good flow to it. Very good flow.
Really, for my first interview, not bad.
Not bad at all.
I had to pat myself on the back for that. But anyway, I noticed a few of them when I was editing the show, and I just dismissed it because, sometimes I feel my imagination may be getting a little goofy, and honest to God, I just don't want to think about that here.
Well, last week was one of those weeks where I was just chomping at the bits waiting to hear how the program went. One, because it was the first phone-in program that you've done. And,
hey, the technology worked.
I was very impressed with it. It sounded real good. It sounded real good. And while I was sitting there listening, and I actually got lucky and caught it just within a minute after you had published it to the web.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there listening to the program, and I hear all these little snippets and things in it, and I'm going, well, now, why didn't he edit the background noise out? And then the next thing I hear is what appears to be actually words.
Yeah.
In between the conversation. And
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, that sounded like an EVP. Let's listen a little bit closer. So after listening to the program and hearing numerous EVPs, that you can actually tell are voices over either your conversation or Joey's conversation.
Yeah.
After going back in and tweaking the audio just a little bit, slowing it down, we were able to actually distinguish words out of some of it.
Yeah.
And it's not arguable. I mean, it's actually words that's in between. So, folks, no matter where you're at or what you're doing, if there's some type of electronic device around you capable of being heard, and it doesn't necessarily have to record. It's capable of producing an EVP.
Absolutely.
And after I listened to it, and first thing I done was got on the phone with you and went, "Why didn't you introduce your other guest?"
Yeah. and one reason too that other than the fact that I was kind of ignoring what was going on during the editing is I really couldn't edit some of it out because it was too intertwined.
Yes, yeah, it definitely was.
Um,
Well, again, that goes back. It had a good flow.
It did have a good
Had a
flow,
great flow to it.
and I would have really had to cut into the carrier base and just chop the interview all to pieces
But it's
to
not
cut it out.
it's not from bad quality recording.
Oh gosh, no.
It's from interference from another source.
Oh,
And in this
yeah.
case, it's electronic voice phenomenon.
Yes. I think part of the reason too, we used a phone interface and a rather cheap one. I can't afford $700 for a call box. I haven't signed up for Skype yet. That's something I've been looking into. But I used a speakerphone on a cell phone. I think that partially what powered some of that EVP was the static from the cell phone operating as a white noise carrier wave.
Basically, yes. I would agree with you on that.
After the more and more I've thought about it, that seems plausible.
Well, there's been several times that you and I have been talking on the cell phone together.
Yes.
And actually, we would have to be carrying on like 2 or 3 conversations at one time because there would be electronic voice phenomenon in our phone call.
Absolutely.
And it's just another electronic device. It is capable of carrying an EVP.
Mm-hmm.
And with the right equipment, you can actually record this. I mean, all it takes is just a tape recorder, a link between the phone and the tape recorder,
That's it.
and a record button.
That's it.
That's it. That's all it takes.
Or in the case of last week, the guest microphone
Exactly.
and the phone on the desk.
And the phone on the desk.
It worked out well. The technology actually came through for us, but we got a surprise.
Well,
So
EVPs can be heard at just about any given time if you're listening.
sure.
But one thing that I found out during my course of investigations is that if you have a background noise, whether it be white noise, pink noise, simply the rustling of the leaves, walking in gravels, a car passing down the road,
Mm-hmm.
if it's the right frequency and the right carrier wave, the voice will carry on that noise.
Absolutely.
And you will pick up a lot of extra EVPs in that noise that you just wasn't actually counting on. Now, a lot of the critics say, well, you only turn the recorder on for 2 or 3 minutes, let it run, turn it off, then walk to where you're going and turn it back on. But folks, if you do that, you are going to miss probably some of the best EVPs that you will ever record. And the reason for that is for that extra carrier noise.
Absolutely.
I would rather sit and go through an extra 35 to 40 minutes of audio listening to it as to take a chance of dropping and missing one EVP.
Absolutely.
It's worth that extra 35 minutes. You never know what it's going to say. And in a situation where you're walking from place to place, unless you're just basically asking questions, it could be anything.
Sure.
And then, of course, you're going to have the skeptics that argue, well, it's just a random signal bouncing off a satellite somewhere back to our atmosphere, caused by either a ham radio, some type of, antenna, something with that lines. But if you get a intelligent response to a question, what are the chances of that one signal bouncing back and being recorded on your recorder at that one specific time? And here lately, we've had an abundance of EVPs.
Personal EVPs.
Exactly,
too.
exactly. And it goes back to what I say, if you notice them, they will certainly notice you.
Absolutely.
And it depends on how much you open yourself up to it and how willing you are to be able to get over the fear, I guess you would say, of the unknown. A lot of people are not actually collecting the amount of evidence that they could possibly because they're letting their emotions get away with them. And once they get close to a paranormal experience and they start feeling this,
Yep.
they become scared, which is a natural instinct. But,
And I have to fight that in myself too.
well, so do I.
You know.
But I've got less sense than most. You've seen it time and time again where we've actually heard an audible voice,
Oh yeah.
and instead of packing my lunch and going back home and eating it there, I'll walk to it.
Yes.
You've got to overcome your fear in order to be able to get out there and go one-on-one. I guess not a good choice of words, but to go one-on-one on what you've encountered.
Yes.
If you let the fear keep controlling your life, you'll never collect the amount of evidence that you are capable of collecting.
You're right. And yeah, there's many times where, and I'm getting better. There's a lot of times though that we had an incident the other night that it set me to thinking, to where we had an encounter with something, and I didn't get scared. I got angry.
Well, it was what you're referring to. I'm taking it as when we were at the train depot.
Absolutely.
And we were playing with the dowsing rods.
Yeah.
Again, and got a response back from something that basically said it was a demonic entity.
Yeah.
Now, you know as well as I do, while we were there, the feeling of a demonic entity was not there.
No.
So it was obvious that it was someone that was just wanting to yank us around, basically.
Feed off that fear emotion.
Exactly. They're wanting to feed off the fear in order where they can either manifest into our reality,
Yep.
or they can grow stronger to do something else, whatever it is that they wish to do
Sure,
with it.
sure.
And that's what they were doing with you. They were playing with your emotions, and it worked to some extent. You didn't,
I
you
didn't get
afraid.
scared.
You got mad.
I got livid.
And the thing about it is that's still an emotion.
It is a very strong emotion.
And
anger is a powerful motivator, just like fear.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, folks, I'm not one for provoking these spirits, but I did something I shouldn't have done.
You did.
And I had been having a discussion with somebody a week prior, who said that even if we did contact spirits or were talking to spirits and all this, that they could be nothing but liars anyway. And so I just let fly with this. I said, obviously whoever's down here doing this with these dowsing rods is lying, and it's true that all spirits are just a bunch of dadgum liars. Now, I didn't put it in such correct terms.
No, you were a little bit more colorful with the terms that you were using.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, just as soon as you got that out of your mouth, what happened?
Well, it sounded like an elephant dropped from the sky, hit the side of the building that I was standing under.
There was actually stress sounds coming from the building.
Oh, yeah.
And it got you worried to the point where you thought something was fixing to fall on your head.
And I moved quick.
Which goes back to what I always try to do myself and what I tell everybody else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do not let your emotions rule you while doing paranormal investigation.
Absolutely.
They will use it to gain strength. And it wasn't only concentrated on the building part of it. The train that was right there beside us
started popping and cracking and moving.
It sounded like a herd of cattle was running through the train.
Absolutely.
And once you get that energy out there for them to feed off of, whether it be negative, most of the time positive is not strong enough in order to for them to manifest or to do anything harmful. But once you start displaying those negative feelings and throwing it out there for them to feed on, it actually can get kind of dangerous.
Absolutely. And the reason I bring that up is to just caution people. I made a stupid mistake. There's a stupid mistake of getting so afraid that you run away and you don't control your emotions. But, I made a stupid mistake too, because I got so mad that this thing was jerking us around that I lost control of my anger.
And we actually got several good EVPs off that tape.
And, we had a little borrowed piece of technology too that I'm not going to talk about too much. Let me just say thermal camera. And,
well, I'm glad you're not going to talk about it, Mike.
We borrowed a thermal camera from somebody, and there was a lovely handprint and heat draw.
Yes.
On my chest.
Yes. Actually,
right after this,
it was on your chest and across your
right shoulder.
Right shoulder.
Yeah.
Is actually where it was. And while we were actually still sitting there, and this is just fresh right off of you having kicked them off.
Yeah.
We were sitting there doing another dowsing rod session where my wife Cindy was involved, actually holding the rods and asking questions, and there was some more conversation got into about yourself and me about it wasn't actually who they said it was, and we ended up kicking it off again. And things again sort of heated up just a little bit.
Yeah.
So just like I said, the main reason I'm bringing this up is just, and Mike said too, is just exercise caution. Don't let your emotions control you while you're trying to do some type of paranormal investigation. You know, the skeptics say, that's horse manure, but I'm telling you right now, folks, I've seen it time and time again. TAPS is notorious for it. I'm not speaking bad about our brother paranormal investigators.
You want me to?
No, I'm not. I don't want anybody to speak bad about anybody, but
Yeah.
they're bad about going into a place and trying to provoke in order to collect evidence.
Right.
And how many episodes have you seen people that's got knocked to the ground when they provoked?
Plenty.
Well,
Two.
I don't go on an investigation to go to the hospital afterwards.
No, and I'll say this too. I am not jealous of TAP's success.
No,
There are people that I am jealous of in life. David knows who these people are, and my father confessor knows also, and he's forgiven me, my child. But anyway, TAPS is not somebody I'm jealous of. I think it's great. I think they get the paranormal community out there. They keep it fresh in people's mind. They give them a good program. The problem is that you're taking an investigation that in some cases, minimum 2 days, maximum a week, 2 weeks, and you're condensing it down to an hour of television with the intention of getting one thing, ratings.
Ratings, right.
That provocation makes for great ratings.
Well, it does, and people loved it. It's like I've always said, if you put it out there for them to see and hear, they're going to beat a path to your door because it's just like going by a gruesome wreck. They cannot stand not to turn that head and look with a chance of hoping to see a body laying on the ground.
Absolutely.
Same thing with paranormal evidence. They want to see pictures of ghosts. They want to see and hear the EVPs. They want to feel like they're right out there amongst it. And it gets them all fired up. And then when you get a great TV show like TAPS that comes on, and there's no arguing. It is a great show.
I watch it when I can.
You're so fired up by the end of it. I mean, you can't sit in the chair anymore. It's time to get up and go hunt.
That's it.
But, there's certain aspects that I don't agree with. One is trying to physically and purposely tick off an entity in order to collect evidence.
Right.
I've seen it happen too many times. I've been on the receiving end of this, and it's not a good thing to be on. If you tick them off and they've got enough energy source to draw off of,
you're going to get flipped.
They will react.
Sure.
At times they will react, but a lot of that, it don't happen every time. A lot of it has to do with the amount of energy that they can draw, the environmental conditions. Your mental attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of it varies on there. But if all those conditions are right, you're subject to get either knocked to the ground or a cup of coffee knocked out of your hand,
smacked in the back of the head.
Smacked in the back of the head. I mean, it's folks, it's energy. Okay, it's energy, and if energy is strong enough, it's capable of doing anything.
That's it.
Anything.
Grab a hold of a 9-volt battery, nothing's going to happen to you.
Right.
Grab a hold of a 120-volt transformer
it's going to knock you to the ground.
You've had a bad day.
Yeah, it's going to knock you to the ground.
If it's strong enough, it's going to pack a wallop. But anyway, we went off on a tangent, didn't we?
Well, we went over next to Uncle Ray's and Aunt Casey's over yonder just to get back up to the barn where the mule's at.
Yeah, well, it was a scenic ride.
Yeah,
it was. It was.
Give me a chance to rant and rave a little bit.
Well, it was, and before you go riding off to Grant and Jason at TAPS, saying that Mike Watkins said they're all this and all this. No, I watch the program when I can. I like the program. Rent the DVDs, actually, for the episodes that I missed.
Oh, yeah.
Love the program. It's great, and it does something good for the paranormal community. I'm just saying that any program that you watch on television is there to get ratings. And they're going to condense down the boring parts of investigation. Them sitting there for 6 hours doing nothing to get the 5 minutes of them getting whacked.
Well, the thing about it is you can't base an investigation on 2 days.
No.
Okay?
It's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process. Sometimes it may actually take months in order to do a proper investigation on one house.
Yeah.
But when you're complete with that investigation, you are able to say without a doubt, you have something here, or there doesn't appear to be anything here that's harmful, but you've got a definitive answer. And if you rush it, you're liable to make mistakes. And if you make mistakes, they got children in the house, somebody's liable to get hurt.
Bad day.
Of course, Jason and them, as well as I do, will drop everything that they're doing.
For kids.
It don't matter what time of day or night it is. If they're out working on the plumbing at the time and somebody calls and says, hey, my child is in danger here, they'll miss a half a day's work to go out and help them.
And I respect that.
I do.
I absolutely respect that.
Immensely.
And we'll do the same thing.
Well, of course.
You know, I've got sick time. I've got personal time built up at my job. And, you know, whether my superiors agree with what I do or not, they'll let me do what I do.
Right.
And as long as I don't tell them what I'm doing.
Well, I was going to say, as long as I don't know what I'm doing, they don't care either.
Yeah.
So that's the way it normally goes.
You know, I'm not going to go out and say, hey, we're going out to a poltergeist case. You know, can I have the next 2 days off? But, you know, I do have some time built up that I keep for emergencies.
Right. And a child is an emergency.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're within the sound of our voice, you know, within our service area, 100, 200 miles of the big metropolis of Lafayette, Georgia, you know, and you've got an emergency case like that, you pick up the phone and we'll be there.
Of course. And the thing about it is, and I'll go ahead and tell you right now, Mike, whenever I know we're fixing to take a commercial break here in a few minutes.
We are.
But when we come back, we're going to go off topic again for just a second.
Okay.
And we're going to discuss for just a minute the collecting of EVPs in your child's room.
Okay. Well, there's you a teaser, as they call it in the professional business, a little promo, a little teaser.
Imaginary friends. All kids have them. Most parents believe they're just nuts or got a great imagination. But, folks, I'm telling you right now, what's imaginary might not be so imaginary. And I found this out myself.
Okay. So there's your teaser. And I tell you what we're going to do. We're around 30 minutes into this already. Thank God for the extra bandwidth. And, you know, thank goodness that we've upgraded and we're doing what we need to do there, and we're giving you these higher quality shows and the higher bandwidth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze in 2 commercials. That's all we got. And you'll hear the soon-to-be retired commercial. And you'll hear the new Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team commercial featuring a handsome and debonair spokesman. Wait, it's me. Never mind. Anyway, it's...
Yeah, the other commercial didn't get done this week, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's just me. So you'll have to put up with me, and, you know, hey, sorry. So anyway, just sit back, go get you a cup of coffee if you want to, hit the pause on the player here, whatever you got to do, but you're not going to want to miss the last half of this show, folks, because, hey, we got 11 EVPs coming up. They're going to be higher quality. You know, some are Class A, Class B, Class C. That's something we need to talk about, too, is the classification system, David, when we come back.
And the new system.
Yeah.
And the new one.
So, hey, sit back, listen to these commercials. We'll see you on the other side of the commercial break. And, again, you're listening to Georgia Paranormal Radio with Mike Watkins, special guest David Westbrooks, episode number 11, which is the EVP Special. Stay tuned, and we appreciate your time. In 2006, the number of people in the United States was an estimated 299 million, and approximately 205 million of those people were online. Now let's suppose that just 1% or 2 million of those people listen to internet radio or podcasts. Let's further suppose that just 1% of that 1% are interested in the paranormal and listen to this program. That would be 20,000 listeners or potential customers hearing about your product, service, or website on every broadcast. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team and Georgia Paranormal Radio are homegrown organizations with a regional and now worldwide footprint. Trust us to promote your product, service, or website just like it was our own. Your success is our success. With rates at only $5 a month, guaranteed exposure on every broadcast, and no long-term commitments if you aren't completely satisfied, you can't go wrong. Can you afford not to advertise with us? For further information, email Mike Watkins at mike@nwgapit.com. Hey folks, Mike Watkins here. Many of you know me as the host of Georgia Paranormal Radio, but I'm also the founder and general manager of the Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team, which is an anchoring sponsor of this program. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team was founded back in 2004 as a scientifically based research and documentation team. This investigative group has over 17 years of combined experience in dealing with the paranormal, and the unique perspectives and specialties that each member investigator contributes really gives you the full package. You can trust the Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team to thoroughly, yet discreetly and confidentially, investigate and document any paranormal phenomenon that you may be experiencing. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team serves a large area of North Georgia, North Alabama, and even Southeast Tennessee. As always, their time and services are 100% free of charge. All they ask for is an invitation from you to let them investigate those cold spots, bumps in the night, or anything else paranormal. And contacting them couldn't be any easier either. Just go to www.nwgapit.com and check them out. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team, proudly bringing you Georgia Paranormal Radio and proudly investigating what you fear. All right, welcome back from the commercials break, everybody. Had to get those two out of the way, had to pay the bills, and now I owe myself money. Since that's me, I guess I owe myself money now. That's just weird.
That's better than owing somebody else.
Well, at least I'll always have some income. Even if it's just from my left pocket to my right pocket. How strange.
You're never broke.
Yeah. So anyway, thank y'all for making it through that long talk there. Excuse my silliness. It's been a long day, and it's going to be even longer. So we're going to get into a little more talk here about EVPs, and as David said before the program, some imaginary friends. And we're going to talk about the EVP classification system a little bit. And then we've got 11 samples to play for you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the old microphones back over to David here. And let's talk some about the imaginary friends, David.
Well, like we were talking about actually before we went on break and during the break, a child has not had it drove into their head, a small child, that ghosts do not exist.
Right.
And it's a scientific fact that their brains are more susceptible because the skull does not harden until they reach the age of 8 to 10 years old.
Right.
The blood supply that flows through the brain is a lot richer. So they're more susceptible to things of this nature than what we are as adults. And I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of people out there whose children have had imaginary playmates, and probably even ones that's children are grown, you never saw any harm of this. It was just a good imagination on your child's part. But, there's times when you have to back up and go, well, just how imaginary is this friend?
Right.
Because you're sitting there listening to a child in another room carry on a conversation like they're carrying on a conversation with a brother or sister.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is that there's nobody in the room other than them that you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the problem with nightmares at night, where the child comes to you and says, the imaginary friend's my name Billy. Billy won't leave me alone at night. He's worrisome. He keeps waking me up. And you're sitting there going, well, the child just don't want to go to sleep, doesn't want to go to bed, and just pass it off at that.
Right.
But now this is what I found on my own. I have 3 children still living at my house. I've got 5 children, but I've still got 3 living at home. I have 2 wonderful daughters. They both share a bedroom, and my next to oldest daughter is all the time waking up in her sleep, whining, crying, and she basically says it's because one of my youngest daughter's friends, Man, which is his name, don't ask me where she come up at, but that's his name, won't leave her alone at night, and that they're aggravating her. So what does a paranormal investigator do? He takes a tape recorder, sticks it in their room at night. That serves 2 purposes. One, if there's any outside noises coming from outside that could be scaring them while they're sleeping, I can take care of that, and everything's well and peaceful with the world.
Right.
And if there are entities inside the house and they're going on at them at night, it gives me an opportunity to find out exactly what's going on. And in this case, we did pick up voices of at least one male, one adult male, and you could hear him calling out my oldest daughter's or my next to oldest daughter's name, and there would be a series of pops and knocks before this was called out, and she would become extremely restless. She would cry out in her sleep. You could hear the sound of a female, an adult female, saying, "Shh, shh, it's okay."
Right.
And shortly after this, she would calm back down and go back to sleep. And numerous small children's voices can be heard on these tapes as well. One of them, my youngest daughter's nickname is Stinky.
Yeah.
Don't ask me. My wife hung out on her. I imagine that she's probably going to be pretty pissed about it whenever she gets up older and realizes what her nickname was. But during the course of these tapings, a small child's voice can be heard saying, "Stinky is my best friend."
Mm.
And how wild is that? Now, how much of a coincidence is that that's a radio signal bouncing off of a satellite from a
Right.
ham radio
Right.
during this taping,
Right.
and just coming up with my youngest daughter's nickname,
Right.
Stinky, just
Yeah.
off the spur of the bat, and saying the exact thing, "Stinky is my best friend." Now, I'm sure the skeptics can see where that's widely possible,
Sure.
but I'm sorry, folks, I don't. When you get an intelligent response or intelligent conversation going on, I'm sorry, but to me, it's more than just random signals.
I agree. I agree. I mean, there's times when you just have to say, this is just too real. So, some of the skeptics out there will say it's a pirate radio station transmitting from Guadalajara, Mexico, resonating in your, aluminum, silver, metallic, mercury fillings in your mouth, creating some kind of electronic disturbance, which is picked up by your eardrum and causing an imbalance in the universal harmonics and, all that
Reflecting
stuff.
off of Venus.
Swamp gas reflecting
Right.
off of Venus, causing mass hallucination. They can come up with 100,000 things.
At that exact time.
Sometimes the simplest possibility is the best possibility.
Exactly.
Sometimes an apple's just an apple. Sometimes a ghost is just a ghost.
Just a ghost.
Yeah.
And,
So
and I'm sorry, but we're getting off the topic just a little bit. But ghost is nothing more than energy.
right.
That's all it is.
Right.
It's energy. It's not some ghoulish creature like you see that Hollywood has made up in the films and that tries to kill everybody in the house or everything. Now you go into demonic entities, sure, you've got a problem there, but a ghost or a spirit is as harmful as you want them to be.
Right.
I mean, if you turn around and run because you're afraid you're going to break a leg, then you done that yourself. The ghost didn't.
Right.
But they're not going to do anything harmful. And the only way that they can hurt you, basically, is if you allow them to by letting your emotions run away with you again, turning tail and running,
That's
falling over something, breaking a leg, breaking an arm. They're not going to hurt you. They're just not going to hurt you. But now, again, like I said, and it's for another show, when you get into a demonic entity,
Oh.
then we're talking about something altogether.
Oh, it's a
Altogether
filthy
different.
McNasty. I'm telling you, that's weird. I'm just I'm stalling here, which I may edit this out. But right before this, I noticed an unusual sound spike in the recording frequencies. When I said they're a filthy McNasty, but that's not creating the same sound
No, it's
spike.
not. It was another source, and see, there it is again.
There it is again.
There it is again.
You may not hear any of this, folks, but you may whenever I may leave this in. But it looks like, because we're using a kind of an oscilloscope style graph on the sound recording program to track our voice prints here, just so we can see how loud we're talking and get a good conversation flow going here. But there were two anomalies, I guess about 20-30 seconds back, and I may just leave those in here. I mean, this is a show about electronic
EVP,
voice
yeah.
phenomenon.
And it may not be anything.
Right. It may not be anything. So if you don't hear any of this, then, well, you're none the wiser. But, I may leave that in. That's very interesting. And, that comes back to analyzing your evidence, too. That's a good thing to look for when you're analyzing these EVPs or those little voice spikes like that on these oscilloscope type. Well, I use the oscilloscope type readouts here to give me voice levels. And,
Well, once you become accustomed to using the computer programs with the readouts on it and everything, you can fairly much look at the graph and tell, that looks like normal conversation.
right.
Then when you see an anomaly come up in it, then that's where you're going to start wondering, could that be an EVP?
Right.
But now that's not to say that the EVP is strong enough and clear enough, it will produce a normal looking blip
Yeah.
up on the graph.
Now, but you get into strong enough and clear enough. I think that's a perfect segue there, David, into the classification system of EVP. Now, we talked about Sarah Estep before, founder of the American Association of EVP, and she come up with this this classification system, simple as ABC. Right? A is something that that everybody hears and says, "Oh my God, he's saying my name's John Brown. I died 1412." You know,
Right.
a B is kind of open to interpretation. It's a little lower quality.
It might sound like one thing to 10 of us and might sound like something else to another 5. It's open to interpretation. It's not, as good a quality as what an A is, but you can still tell that it's a human sounding voice.
Yeah, and then you get into Class C, which I've got a couple of Class Cs that are in the 11 samples that we're going to play here in just a few minutes. But, Class C is the kind that, something's there.
But it's anybody's guess about what is actually being said.
Good flipping luck figuring that out.
30 people can come up with 30 different things on it.
Yeah, it's, good luck with those Class Cs. Now, that's kind of the old scale. Is there a new one?
There's a new one that's being pushed at the present time called a Class XB.
Yeah.
Now, basically what that is you play the recording in reverse.
Yeah.
And you can actually get a Class B EVP out of it being played backwards.
Right.
And I don't think you would ever be able to come up with a Class A in it. You may. I haven't heard one or seen of one. But the best, I think, quality that you would get was a Class B, which, again, is open to interpretation by different people.
Right.
So I don't push that well. Now, I played with it a little bit. Very interesting. You can hear something that don't sound like anything forward and then play it backwards and have, that B sounding quality of an EVP.
Yeah.
But again, you get into the psychologist that says, basically your mind taking a familiar sound and just being able to produce it into something that is similar that you would understand.
Audio matrixing.
Exactly.
You have visual matrixing, you have all, sensory matrixing whenever something's touching you and you try to associate with what it feels like. Visual matrixing is when you can look up at the sky and you see a cloud and, oh, that looks like a bunny, oh, that looks like a doggy. Audio matrixing is when you hear a noise and you relate it to, well, that sounds like this, or your mind tries to make sense of it. And it's I hate to say it so bluntly, but it's your mind's way of keeping you sane.
Exactly.
If we were surrounded by things that we didn't understand visually and auditorily all the time, we would be in a nut house.
Yeah.
It would drive us insane.
Well, it's just like being in a large crowd somewhere, talking to your best friend. Your mind will take snippets of what he's saying.
Yeah.
And process them in your brain to what, it could possibly be that he's saying. And you can actually at times hear the conversation better in a large crowd than you could if you were just talking by yourself.
Right.
But it's because of the brain concentrating so much and picking up the little snippets.
Yeah.
And, I know you don't like to talk about this, Mike, but, if people pay close enough attention to this recording this week,
yeah,
I believe they're going to find a lot of interesting things in this recording this week.
Yeah, if I leave them in there.
Things are getting heated up again. And, and again, it could be, us bringing them with us. I mean, we seem to have this problem every time we come up here.
Yeah.
Or it could be that they just don't want us here, or it could be that, they realize that, maybe we're a little bit more sensitive than the average Joe, and they're trying to get something across to us so that we can relay it.
Yeah.
It could be any of those three things, but I mean, the conversation has taken sort of a what words am I looking for, Mike? We're sort of preoccupied trying to figure out what's going on other than talking.
I'm talking and I look over my shoulder, and what concerns me is sometimes when I look over my shoulder, Cindy Westbrooks, David's wife, is here with us in the office, and she's kind of sitting behind us in the peanut gallery. And, I look back and she makes eye contact with me, and we both nod our head saying, yeah, there was something there.
Yeah.
So, I'm used to the shadow person here. I'm kind of used to what else may be here. It's not as disruptive as it has been prior. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, like I said, it could be one of several things that brings us on. It could be, me and Cindy that's actually bringing it with us whenever we come, somebody following us. It could be that they're not happy with us being here. It could be that, they're just trying to get a message across because they know that we can perceive a little bit easier than some.
Me, I'm thick as a board. So.
Well, it goes back again to how much you open yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
And audible EVP is something we haven't discussed yet, so we'll just jump right into there.
Yeah.
Audible EVP is where you actually physically hear the voice.
AVP.
And what did I say? Did I say AVP or EVP?
I don't remember. I was just kind of.
I meant AVP.
I was being the Paul Schaefer to your David Letterman there, and.
Oh God, that's scary.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I am losing my hair.
Being able to audibly hear it, and you know, here lately things have started picking up a little bit for us. We started picking up a lot on audible voices, and again, it goes back, I think, to the amount of concentration that you're putting into it, and how willing you are to actually accept the paranormal.
Yeah.
Because it's like I said to begin with, if you see them, they most definitely are going to see you.
Sure.
And, you know, they're going to try any way that they can to contact and to convey what it is that they're wanting to convey to you if they realize that you can actually see or hear them.
And are willing to.
And are willing to.
Yeah.
So, you know, that a lot of times that makes a difference in the amount of evidence that you can collect and actually the quality of evidence that you collect. You've got to be able to put yourself into this thing and believe in it wholeheartedly. Put yourself in a position where you know you're going to get frightened because you've opened yourself up so much, and then you hear that audible voice.
Right.
The first instinct you have is, boy, it's time to go. Jump in the truck. But you've got to overcome that fear, walk up to it, and go, okay, I heard you. I have a tape recorder here. Tell me what you want me to hear.
That's it.
And here lately, we've picked up on a lot of audible EVPs. It's amazing. One, because of the place, the location that we've been at. I mean, it's just an extraordinary place.
Yeah, it is.
But if somebody told me 3 years ago that you're going to hear these things talking to you, you know, I would have said, well, if I do, then I'm going to go check myself in someplace.
If somebody told me that a year ago, I would have been that way. You know, I haven't been into EVP heavily except for about a year. I just didn't trust it. You know, I just didn't put the link together. Well, if we can catch them on film, we can catch them on tape.
Right.
And
it's not true.
Right. I mean, it's it's there and it's real. And I wanted to specialize in photography and leave the EVPs to other people. But it's piqued my interest. And but if you told me a year ago that I'd be out somewhere where I know it's just myself and David there, and all of a sudden I hear a child's or a woman's voice, I wouldn't have believed you. I'd have said you're full of crap.
Or sitting in a cemetery at 1 o'clock in the morning and all of a sudden from nowhere hearing the voice of a woman go, "Get out."
Yeah, and we've played that on here before.
Yeah,
too.
we've played that.
That's a good one.
And we know without a doubt that we were by ourselves that night.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't come from any living person that was inside that. But, I mean, when you start hearing audible EVPs, which that by chance was witnessed by 3 separate individuals.
Absolutely.
When it gets to the point where you're getting audible EVPs, there is either an extremely large power source that they're drawing off of, or they realize that you're a little bit more sensitive than others and are capable of getting these thoughts across to you.
Yeah. All right, and with that being said, we're going to get down to the brass tacks of the program. This is an EVP special, and heck, we've almost went a full hour without playing an EVP, David. Interesting night here at the old homestead, and hey, you may have heard a friend of mine.
Well, we've been a little preoccupied. For about the last 15 minutes or so, things have been hopping again at the old homestead place, and again, not sure whether or not it's that we're bringing them or not, but I think that my wife Cindy has picked up on some things while we were on just a small break, and we may actually have discovered some of the intention of our unknown guest.
Yeah, some have unraveled a part of the mystery, perchance.
Like a Scooby-Doo episode, you know that?
Don't get me started on Scooby-Doo. That's,
Scooby-Doo.
no, that's going to offend a large continent, and never mind. If y'all want to hear a good Scooby-Doo thing, just email me and I'll send it to you privately, but I'm not going to put that out on the air because it's, there's billions of those people, and they kept nuclear weapons too.
I got guns. I like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I love Scooby. I mean, I got a Scooby-Doo tattoo. Nobody believed me, but I actually do have a Scooby-Doo tattoo. So.
And I can verify that. I've actually seen it. It's on his arm. Didn't want you to think I was looking at some other part of the anatomy that I wasn't supposed to, but he's got a Scooby-Doo tattoo on his arm, which absolutely blows my mind because I've known him for, I don't know, 3-4 years and didn't have a clue that he had that.
Yeah, I'm a tattoo guy. I like tattoo. I cover it up well. I don't talk about it. It's just something for me, and I like it.
How in God's name did we get off on talking about Scooby-Doo?
I don't. We were going into EVPs. We were going into Scooby-Doo. Then all of a sudden, we're talking about tattoos. And by the way, this episode is brought to you by Tattoos by Ella. If you're in Rossville, Georgia, and you need a tattoo, see Tattoos by Ella. She's a big, tall German woman with a gentle touch. Tell her Watkins sent you, and well, I'll get a free tattoo one day if you tell enough times. So that's our unofficial sponsor of the week. All right, well, without further ado, like I said before, we're going to get into some EVPs because, my God, this is taking a long time. So, the first EVP that we're going to play, well, let me say this again. We have 11 samples. These are of various quality. Okay, some of them are Class A, Class B, Class C. What we're going to do is we're going to play them 3 times, looped. There's going to be about 3 seconds of silence between each EVP play, and then we're going to discuss it just a little bit and tell you what we think it says. Now, of course, with these Class Bs and Class Cs, folks, these are open to interpretation. So, this is what you've been waiting for. You hadn't been listening an hour just to hear us gossip like 2 old women. Sorry for all you old women out there listening. But, anyway, the first, well, it's a tasty foot and it's a big one, so it's a full meal. So, like I said, let's just go ahead and get started before I offend another portion of the audience. So, the first EVP we're going to listen to comes from, I'm not going to name the actual name of this residence because it is in our area, and if somebody's listening in our area, they may be able to find it. So, we're going to go ahead and play this one, and this is number 1. You're going to hear it 3 times, like I said a while ago, so just take a listen, and we'll see you on the other side of this EVP.
Workhorse of certain people walk around. Workhorse of certain people walk around. Workhorse of certain people walk around.
That first EVP, David, now Cindy disagrees with what it's saying, so we have to kind of put it in the Class A, Class B region, more Class B, because you and I hear the same thing, but Cindy does not. I'm hearing something like, we come to thank you, please be our friend, I think is what, to me it sounds like that.
That's what I get out of it, and just, a little bit on the EVP. Of course, in my job, I'm a police officer, and one of the perks to my job is that I carry a tape recorder everywhere I go. It's the best personal liability insurance policy you'll ever invest in.
Yes.
But I use it a lot on investigations where houses are broken into or open doors. Any excuse I get to run a recorder, I will. And this is one of the times where we went on a burglary call. And I'm going through the house. We're checking the house to make sure that there's no intruder still left in the house. Got the tape recorder running. And this EVP is one of the things that was produced off of it. There's actually several that came off of that one recording, but this was the clearest and the best one out of the group. To me, it sounds like we came to thank you. Please be our friend.
Right.
Now, that's what I'm getting out of it. Of course, now Cindy gets something a little bit different out of it.
Right.
But again, we're talking about the gray area between A and B. And it's just one of those where you've got to listen to it and make up your own mind what it's actually saying.
Absolutely. We're going to start kind of moving into these in kind of a rapid succession just because, by the time we get out of this show tonight, it's going to run an hour and 30 minutes probably. We're going to try to cut it down to an hour 20 to save just a wee bit of that bandwidth and some of your listening time. But the next one you're going to hear is from a location that we frequented. Actually, the next three you're going to hear from this location. It's an old abandoned homestead. We've actually played some things from there before. What actually happened with this, though, is before Halloween we were approached by a student and her mother who wanted to do a documentary, sort of, about ghosts and ghost hunting. And we let them tag along with us to this rather haunted location in lieu of going to Corpsewood Manor.
Good choice of words, and I would rather go to that house place any day as Corpsewood. You know,
Yeah.
Y'all, the hot topic subject last week was Corpsewood. Personally, you know, I don't have any business up there. I don't care about going up there. I know a lot of it's a bunch of hype, but I don't want to be there and experience anything personal.
Right.
And I didn't think that a small child, 12, 13, 14 years old, needed to be either.
Didn't need that. And you know, they wanted to go up there, and they actually, it was very fortuitous how we met. And but you know, I had no intention of going up there to begin with. I was going to take them to a different location, and David suggested that we go to this place. So this actually comes from that documentary / investigation, these next three. So here comes the first one, and then we'll explain it just a little bit and move into the next one here. Okay, that's one of those low-class Bs, kind of medium-class Bs. A little open to interpretation. Don't come upstairs.
Well, the residence that we're at has a large walkabout attic.
Yes.
And this house is, for the better part, falling apart.
Yes.
All the covers that were up covering the attic crawlway and everything are gone. And basically it's an EVP, I believe, that don't want us up there.
Yeah.
They want us to stay exactly where we're at. They tolerated us for a little while that night. But as in usual fashion, we will run out of that place in about an hour.
And you will hear the next thing, which is, I'm told on good authority, this is page 4 of the newly deceased handbook. They're required to say this. By law, I think, required to say this. Okay, so, you know, those people that are familiar with this program and what I'm talking about know what's coming, so just sit back and listen to this one.
It's coming from upstairs, it's coming out from the hall. It's coming from upstairs, it's coming out from the hall. It's coming from upstairs, it's coming out from the hall.
Yeah, that's Get Out.
Get that right.
Every time. I'm telling you, you know.
Well, my personal theory about the whole get out or please leave is that for the biggest majority of the entities that are here, they don't want any contact with the living. They don't even want the living to know they're here.
Right.
And when we intrude on their space, basically they're telling us to get out. It's their way of saying, leave me alone. I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Yes.
Then you have the other side that want to be noticed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's the ones where you'll get a lot of your EVPs from.
Yeah. Now this one is, again, to me it's kind of a disturbing one because to me it sounds like a small child.
Anytime you get something that sounds like a small child, it's disturbing to anybody. Something
Yeah.
you don't normally think about.
Right. So let's just go ahead and play this one, and we'll be right back after we play this one. We'll talk about it just a bit. Okay, now to me that sounds like a child saying, "Who is it?"
That's correct. Now, you said to begin with that we were taking a school child
Yes.
on for a documentary of a haunted place.
Yes.
And the thing about it is that one, this sounds much, much, much younger than the age of the child that we had up there that night, which was what 13, 14 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere in that age period, and nothing, absolutely nothing, sounds like the girl that we had or her mother.
Right.
So it had to be from an outside source other than where we were.
Mhm. Yeah, it was. It was interesting. Yeah, and like I said, like David said, I'm getting tongue tied here, distracted again. I apologize for being distracted, folks. But yeah, it wasn't the child that we had with us. I've got voice samples of her on tape, several of them, several of the mother, and
It wasn't nowhere close.
not even. So that place is always interesting. That place has got some jail cells in the back. We've talked about that before. Uh,
And,
Private home with jail cells in the back. Go figure.
well, it was actually two separate residents at one time, and we've got some of the history to the place that has been told to us, and those jail cells were used for some pretty awful things back in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, things that were outlawed in the Emancipation Proclamation.
That's correct.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Somehow, some way, that does not surprise me. Anyway, we don't even want to talk about that on this, but that's much heavier than I'm willing to deal with tonight. We're going to move on to, well, we're getting out of the heavy and into the really heavy. 30,000 casualties worth of heavy.
Your favorite place.
Yeah, Wilder Tower, Chickamauga Battlefield. Go ahead and listen to this one. And again, these are Class A, Class B, and Class C. Some of them are kind of there. Some of them are kind of not. It's up to you to decide. But we'll tell you what we think it says after you hear this. A little open to interpretation on the front half of it and the back half of it. The middle is kind of good. Sometimes you hear "you never came back upstairs," or "you." What I know for sure is "never came back," and then the beginning word and the end word, it's kind of wishy-washy. What are you thinking there, Dave?
Well, basically, I think it was referring to didn't want me to come back upstairs.
Yeah.
I think it's referring to. But this is Wilder's Tower, and Lord knows there ain't been many places that has the acoustics that Wilder Tower has on the inside.
Yeah, I've got a little girl crying and singing in there at 1 o'clock in the morning before, when I know it was locked.
Right. But I haven't been there
weird.
at night because of the provisions that the park range or at the federal park put on about no nighttime activity up there based on vandalism and other things. But this was taken very early in the morning. It was just right after 7 a.m. in the morning. I was the only person in the tower. I was the only person in that area. And there's absolutely no other place that it could have come from other than from an entity or a spirit that was in that tower.
Right. Yeah, that's that tower is very strange. It's contrary to popular belief, it was not there during the Civil War. A lot of people think it was. It was not there during the Civil War. It is a monument.
And it was built
1890 to 1910.
well after the
somewhere
war
in
had
that area.
ended. 1899.
Hey, that's Cindy Westbrook speaking up there, folks. Just in case you didn't know she was here, she's here.
It's my favorite
And
place.
it is a good place. What many people don't know, and it is kind of been proven, is that my mother, Lord rest her soul, I wish he would, Lord rest her soul, used to always say that when she was a kid growing up, there was a door under the steps to the tower. A flat door, kind of like a trap door, kind of where the tower curves back down there, the stairs. And, nobody really believed her until one day I actually went in there and took a look at it, and there is different concrete under those stairs than there are around it. Also, that tower is built on a concrete box.
So there's a good possibility there's
A secret room in there.
secret room in there.
They say there was a time capsule in there. You don't need a whole room for a time capsule. There's a room under that tower. Who in the world knows what that was for?
Right.
You know, don't even want to speculate. Don't even want the CIA or the National Park Service shooting at me when I go to work in the morning. But you know, a lot of people thought my dear mother was wacky taffy for saying that. Turns out it was true. It really was true. There's a secret room under that tower. You can't get to it now because it's concreted up. But so the tower's always active and the battlefield's always active. But we're going to move down to an area where I have thoroughly irritated someone or something there. And that's down at the train depot, Somerville. Got a pretty clear Class A, I think, coming up here. And that's, well, just go ahead and have a listen to this, and you'll hear what it says. Yeah, that's, I guess it's saying hello.
Yeah, it just acknowledging the fact that it knows that we're there.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. Sometimes they just say hello. So that was good. We talked a little earlier, David, about audible voice phenomenon, AVP. Right now what we're going to play for you is an audible. We heard it. The recorders caught it. It was just me and you there that night. And this comes from a kind of a location that we closely guard. There's a portal there. People have wrote me asking me about a portal and how we define it, how we describe it, and all that stuff. And I hope I answered your email without boring you to tears, because that was a long answer. I did the best that I could with that one. But this comes from a location that we believe has a portal. We get a lot of audibles from there. And you're going to hear an audible, and then you're going to hear my response to that, and then David confirming that that was an audible. So go ahead and listen.
Okay, that was a level 3 pucker factor right there.
That was a moan.
Okay, that was a level 3 pucker factor right there.
That was a moan.
Okay, that was a level 3 pucker factor right there.
That was a moan.
Yeah, level 3 pucker factor. Use your imagination with that one, folks. That's yeah, that you're just lucky I could play that on here. I'm sure there was some bad language in there. I'm real bad sometimes to pop off a bad word here or there. Of course, you folks hadn't heard me do that, so you don't believe that I'm capable of it, I'm sure. But I work in a jail. I'm capable of saying a lot of things. But audible voice phenomenon, before we get into my father confession here.
Yeah. Hey, you're not the only one that has to say confession at least 3 or 4 times a week.
I'm telling you.
You know, I'm extremely lucky. I can't complain. I go on investigations probably sometimes as much as 5-6 days a week.
Yeah.
And the biggest majority of them are on the outside. But when caught off guard, I tend to say adjectives and adverbs just as bad as you do.
Yeah.
And this is one of those, I'm surprised I didn't, because this is one of those times where it took us off guard, but not entirely, because we saw a light anomaly.
Oh, my.
Just before we heard this audible response. And the only way that I can explain the light anomaly was that it was probably 10 feet in width.
Yeah.
It was white with substance.
Yes.
It zoomed in, stopped for a brief second, and then zoomed right back out.
Changed direction.
Changed direction.
In the middle of that. Now,
showed intelligence by changing the direction.
Yeah.
And then within 2 minutes after that is whenever we come up and pick this audible up.
Yeah, in all honesty, David, I've thought about it and thought about what we saw, and I have to say that I really believe that was swamp gas reflecting off of Venus.
Yeah.
I
would believe that except for two things. One, it was cloudy that night.
Yeah.
There was a high wind present that night.
Yeah.
And Venus was not able to get through the clouds. And even if it was swamp gas, the amount of wind we had that night was probably between 7 to 10 miles per hour.
Gusting to 15 to 20.
Gusting to 15 to 20 at times. And there's no way that swamp gas could zoom in, stop, and then zoom off in a separate direction than what the wind was blowing.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid I'll have to dispute your answer on that one.
Yeah, darn. See, that's what you get when you watch Men in Black too much, folks. You start doing things like that and believing everything's swamp gas. I've been neuralized too many times, but
it's the methane from the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, here we go.
Reflecting off the International Space Station.
That's it. That's a new response right there. But still, that doesn't solve the problem about the clouds or the wind that night. But you've got to admit that was a good response.
I'm stunned. I mean, I really am stunned. I
wasn't expecting her to say anything, but
yeah, wow. You actually hear me speechless, folks.
Yeah, she actually took up for Mike again. But
wow. Yeah. So anyway, that place is very active, and like we said, we really did have that go on.
I said at the end of it that sounded like a moan.
Yeah.
But once you put it on the computer, you actually tell it sounds like another small child.
Yeah.
There's words in it.
It's low.
Yeah, I'm not able to tell you what they are.
The audible moan or what comes out as a moan. I think the good thing about that though is that it was audible.
Right.
That's the thing. It was heard audibly, and thank goodness the recorders picked it up.
And it was directly behind the van where we were leaned up against.
Yeah.
And nobody there.
Nobody was there. So anyway, it's a good place to go. The next three here, it looks like, are coming from last week's.
Whoa, listen. Is that an EVP I hear coming through your speaker?
Yeah. You actually had me worried there, David. After the events tonight, I got to go find my hidden bottle of rum somewhere. I don't know. Maybe that's what's hidden in the house is my liquor.
I couldn't turn that down. I had to do that.
So, you're liable to hear more than just these EVPs tonight. It's kind of strange. I know some of you skeptics out there and some of you more conservative people out there are thinking these people are abso-friggin-lutely nuts. Well, yeah, we are. But
that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you about that. I do have some issues, but
we're the only sane people left on the face of this planet.
Yeah, maybe we're not nuts.
Everybody else is crazy.
Yeah, maybe we're not nuts. Maybe it's you. So, but anyway, really and truly, there have been some voices on here tonight that were not ours. And I'm going to try to leave those in if I can. Hopefully there will be some that are clear enough. I've got the speech patterns isolated here on the monitor to do that for you. But these next three come from last week's episode, the interview that I did with Joey Ward. And these are kind of between my speech and his speech. Sometimes it's kind of over our speech.
Yeah. There was a lot more over than there was in between.
Yeah. And these are just the ones that we really could pull out. So here's the first one, and probably one of the clearer ones. Don't know what in the world it's talking about. Don't even have an idea of what it's talking about. So just listen to this and see if you hear what I hear.
That I had heard audibly, but now quite a few that the recorders had picked up.
Let me ask you this.
That I had heard audibly, but now quite a few that the recorders had picked up.
Let me ask you this.
That I had heard audibly, but now quite a few that the recorders had picked up.
Let me ask you this. In time,
That's what I got out of it, was in time.
In time. It's almost like we were talking, and the context we were talking about was, I think we were actually talking about an audible voice phenomenon.
You were. If I remember correctly, that's what it was.
And we were talking about, I asked him, have you ever heard that? And then this comes across in time.
You know what it could have been referring to was, Joey, in time, you will.
Exactly. Maybe it's
referring to that.
Maybe it's if you listen hard enough and listen long enough, in time,
right,
this will start happening to you or something. I don't know. Very interesting though. Just coincidental satellite waves bouncing off of things. So now the next one though is more of a BC, Class B, Class C. I honestly think it's kind of funny because it's towards the beginning of the program when I'm talking about we're going to have a good show and all this, and then we get this one. So see if you hear what we hear.
Good weather for coffee and a good ghost story. A good fire.
I agree. It's
good weather for coffee and a good ghost story. A good fire.
I agree. It's
good weather for coffee and a good ghost story. A good fire.
I agree. I'm getting from that, and it may not be coming across too well because I did remaster that and resample it, but I'm getting from that, don't lie to us.
Well, this is one of the classic EVPs that you normally pick up on a recorder. It's not actually that deep or that high-sounding human voice-style EVP.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's still words, and it's sort of scratched in, I guess you would say.
Right.
And that's very, very common with EVPs. As a matter of fact, you'll find that you get a lot more like that than you will actually the regular speech.
Yeah. Okay, so this next EVP, and this is going to be the last one from last week's show, as if you want to hear that whole show again. But this is some more of that unknown speech, David. The kind that we talk about is below the frequency level of human voice, kind of scratched in. Can't really tell what it's saying. It's some unknown speech. So here you go.
I've been interested, I guess, for about 2 years now. To some degree, it was just a natural. I've been interested, I guess, for about 2 years now. To some degree, it was just a natural. I've been interested, I guess, for about 2 years now. To some degree, it was just a natural.
All right, so that's, flip a quarter, figure out what that one is.
But again, it's drawing off of a carrier wave in order to get the message across.
Absolutely.
And it's just that carrier wave wasn't strong enough in order to manifest itself out.
This last EVP that we're going to play, this number 11 that we're going to play for episode 11, how fitting, huh? This comes from my house. Not a big fan of people running their equipment in my house. Not a big fan of knowing that there is something here, even though I do. I just don't like to encourage it. I enjoy sleeping. I don't like looking over my shoulder. I don't like the thought of people watching me when I shower. Not a big fan.
Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh at you, but no, we've actually had this conversation at my house.
Yeah, well,
if you've ever had a conversation where you and your wife are worried about somebody watching you in the shower when no one's actually there,
have it all the time.
You might be a paranormal investigator.
I haven't been naked in years because I'm afraid of this.
You've ever had to sit in the bathroom while your wife takes a shower?
Yeah.
There might be ghosts in your house.
I'm telling you. It's
been there, done that.
It's ridiculous, but nonetheless, let me explain to you how I came up with this recording. You need to picture this was recorded at approximately 3:50 in the morning on Thursday, I believe it was Thursday, November the 16th, 2006. I was sound asleep at the time. My recorder has a switch on it, which is a lock switch or a hold switch. I always leave it engaged so that the batteries will not run down. To record on my recorder, which was laying 2 feet from me, next to my bed, to record on this recorder, you have to press the hold button down. It slides down. then you have to hit the little red button that says record, and then it records. Okay? Then you have to hit the little stop button, little black button that says stop, and then you have to re-engage the hold button if you want to turn the thing off again. Well, I pick up my recorder, I'm reviewing evidence, and for something else, and there is 2 seconds, exactly 2 seconds of audio on my recorder that was recorded at 3:50 something a.m. on the 16th or whatever. So I play it back, and well, here's what I heard. Yeah, several people have interpreted that a little differently. To me, it sounds like it's saying someone's name, Tom or something like that, doesn't think I'm still here. Other people are hearing other things on it. It's one of those Class B, Class C things that nobody can really make out. But I got that in my house, folks. I'm not a big fan of that, but nonetheless, there it is. And you know, David and Cindy, they both hear something different out of that than what I hear.
Well, it goes back to what class it's in.
Yeah.
It's a low class C. You can tell that there's human speech in it, but hey, I mean, you know, what is it saying?
And let me just say this right now, folks. As much as I talk about not liking having something in my house, I will say this. Whoever it is that's here or whatever it is that's here has never physically threatened or harmed me. I think they just want attention. They may be trying to get a message across. And that's going to be 99.9% of your encounters that you have. If you're respectful, they're going to be respectful. And there's no reason that we can't peacefully coexist with whatever is out there.
You see that big tree limb under my feet right now?
Yeah.
Well, I'm fixing to walk out toward the end of it, and I may fall off here, but
yeah.
Now, this is no more than my opinion. That's all it is. And
Okay.
It amounts about the same as what you'd probably be able to scrounge together and buy a cup of coffee with.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen and what I understand so far of the paranormal world is that these spirits or beings are exactly where they're supposed to be. Folks, I'm sorry, but my opinion is that they're not bound to go to that bright light after you die. Not at this time. Later on, very possibly. But I think that they're meant to be here.
Yeah.
And it's not just one or two certain individuals that you knew in your life. I mean, they're stacked up like cordwood everywhere.
Yeah.
They're anywhere and everywhere that you go. They're in your house. They're in my house. They're outside. They're in your car. They're in your neighborhood school.
County jail.
And they're right exactly where they're supposed to be. It's the natural order of things.
Yeah.
Now, later on, when the end of the world comes and it's time to go meet Jesus, you know, at that time, sure, look for that bright light, I believe. But
religious disclaimer, if you believe in him.
Right. Right. And like I said, this is just basically my opinion. This is what I've seen and what I understand of it as I've been going through it.
Yeah.
But if you find one entity, you're going to find 100. You're going to find 100 there. There's just not one entity that will come and stay at your house. There's many. And as Mike well knows, you know, there's more than one personality in this house.
Yes, there is.
There's more than one personality.
3 or 4 of them are inside of me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no.
And occasionally they come out.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's what the Thorazine's for, people.
But honestly, I think that things are in the natural order they're supposed to be in. We're not looking for that bright light when we die at this point.
No.
We come back and we stay in that invisible veil until time of the calling.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my opinion, and you know, I'm sure I'll get some hate mail for that one. It's not that I don't believe in God, but I think this is the natural order of things. It appears that every time we make contact with one of these entities, I mean, it appears that that's what they're basically relating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's so mysterious. I guess that's what makes it the paranormal.
Exactly.
And nobody's an expert on this, folks. If you're a paranormal expert, then I need to meet you and shake your hand because my work's done.
And what was that little thing that you put in last week? This by no means reflects the opinions of.
Oh yeah, that whole disclaimer thing there. I think we've disclaimed ourselves enough. And anytime you have a message that you want to get across, then you just say, "I'm Mike Watkins and I approve this message."
Sure.
Because I'm all about politicking. So wow. This show, after editing, I don't know how long it's going to run, folks. We may be over an hour 15 by now with the editing. We've had a few interruptions here tonight. It's been interesting. No Energizer bunnies tonight, which makes it even more interesting. I can't explain that. I apologize for being distracted during some of this program. I do hope you've enjoyed our getting off topic a little bit and just chatting and being ourselves. This show is not scripted. We're flying by the seat of our britches here, people. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you've learned a little something. Maybe you heard something in these EVPs that makes you want to get out there and try to capture them yourself.
Maybe you've heard something in this radio program
Yeah.
that makes you want to get out and capture them yourself.
Yeah. I want to remind everybody again that on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we're having a live chat every week, and that's for this radio program. We're also going to be talking about the paranormal in general, talking about our group, talking about anything you want to talk about. And you can go to www.nwgapit.com, click on chat room, and I know I'll be there. I'm sure Cindy will be there too. If I call and remind me. Yeah, I got to call and remind Cindy this time. But come in there and visit with us. We're good people. We don't scream at people too much. So you'll enjoy coming and just chatting with us for just a little bit. Stop by, spend 5 minutes, and say hi to us. And David, I appreciate you and Cindy making it up to Lafayette. Appreciate this EVP special. The good folks like it. I know they do because we got high numbers. It seems like when we do something other than me talking, we get higher numbers. So, this is a staple that hopefully we're going to continue. Every end of the month, every fourth episode will be an EVP special. But I want to appreciate you and thank you and Cindy for both coming up and for giving us these EVPs this time.
Well, you're more than welcome. Anytime we can, be here, we will be here. Of course, now Cindy's got another spot coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks out, Cindy will be back on, and
it's that hot topic night, and I'm sure she'll find something controversial to talk about.
Oh, it'll be good. Don't really have a plan for next week's show. We may have a special guest on next week's show. I don't know. I'm talking to some people. That may be next week, or it may be 3 weeks out. But if I don't have a guest in here, we'll just I don't know. We'll read how to mix paint or something. I'll read instructions on how to mix paint on the air. Just something to fill up airtime, just to entertain and bore you. So, but we'll find something as filler there. I may do a thing on paranormal protection. That'd be a good topic, and we might even do something about crystals and sea salts and things like that. So, whatever happens, we're going to have a good program for you next week. I appreciate you joining us for this program. I'd love to see you in the chat room. I'd love to have some feedback from you on these programs. And I guess we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We're going to play a little bit of music by Mr. Devin Anderson. Some of you like it, some of you don't. I do. So, hey, I'm going to play it. So, I'm going to play that for you. We'll close with that. And you've been listening to Georgia Paranormal Radio, coming to you live straight out of Lafayette, Georgia, the big metropolis here. Sponsored right now by the Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team. This has been your host, Mike Watkins. You can reach me at mike@nwgapit.com. And again, I thank you for joining us. I hope you have a good night. And like I always say, if you're going out investigating in the next day or two, hey, take the extra 5 seconds and just be careful. Do it right, you know. You know I'll appreciate it. You know your friends and family will too. And that way you can tune into us next week also. So have a good night, be safe, and stay warm.
Child, retire, protest, live wire, check up, smoke up, break up, look down. We are 6 feet underground. We are 6 feet underground.